I don't give a feck about those funny name factors.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of another movie podcast. I am one of your hosts, Matthew. I'm joined by my two beautiful soul of co-hosts, Andrew and Rico, my friends.
It's good to be here. Very excited about today's episode.
Yeah, and I'm Rico DeGaio, and I'm very, very excited about this one as well. It was way more emotionally packed than I thought it was going to be initially. I did not think I would be weeping this week, but I was weeping quite a few times, so I'm really...
Pull out the tissues, boys. We're going to be crying this episode.
Damn right. Real men cry.
Are you guys ready to get on into it?
Let's do it.
Yeah. Let's get into it. Freaking, these were Andrew's recommendations. You want to introduce both of these, Andrew? Or do you want one of us to introduce The Whale? Or whichever you like.
Bet your ass I want to introduce them both. All right. So, our very emotionally packed episode today is going to be the discussion of The Whale, directed by Darren Aronofsky and starring Brendan Fraser, and The Banshees of Inisherin, starring Donald Gleason, I believe is his name, and Brendan Gleason, excuse me. Brendan Gleason and Colin Farrell, and it was directed by Martin McDonagh. So, first thoughts, guys. What do we think of these movies? Let's start with The Whale. What did we think of The Whale?
Okay, yeah, it's to focus on The Whale, I really liked it. It was a very emotionally charged movie that is really held on the shoulders of Brendan Fraser's performance. Aronofsky is also a filmmaker I highly respect, and this is definitely another great movie of his. I don't know if I put it as like one of my favorites of his, but it's definitely far from his worst. I came out of this movie very emotionally tinged. It was quite the experience watching this story of like obesity, freaking abandonment, redemption. Like there's a lot of themes going on here, and yeah, I think it's a really beautiful movie, and like I said, Brendan Fraser gives an amazing performance. But yeah, my general thoughts on it are I really enjoyed it. What about Rico? What did you think about this movie?
So I wept to this movie a lot. There was the entire final act. I felt like I was just like constant, just steady streaming, and I didn't want to be like wheezing or anything or dry heaving around because there were like people in my row in the theater. So I was just like just holding it in, biting my tongue. I was like, oh God. Because this movie deals a lot with the lasting effects of childhood trauma, expectations from parents, and then the after effects of suicide. Though I really enjoy like Sadie Sink as an actress and like a bunch of different actors in this movie. There are some moments where the acting seems a little off to me, a little too over the top. But I feel like what Matt was saying with Brendan Fraser being like this standout, he really goes hard on this movie. I feel like everything that he says, everything he does, just reminds me of like a real person, like a real teacher that would be making these little connections with like students and trying to seek the best in everyone. Very optimistic individual, which just makes it a little bit more sad seeing how he handled everything after certain things happen in his life. So I'm really interested in getting into this one. Andrew, I really want to hear what you say about this, so I'll let you go about it.
All right, so just to break the movie down really quick for people who haven't seen it yet, The Whale follows an English teacher named Charlie, who is played by Brendan Fraser. He is morbidly obese, and he wants to try to reconnect to his strange daughter, Ellie, who is played by Sadie Sink. I gotta be honest here, I was just so blown away by Brendan Fraser's performance as the English teacher Charlie, and his whole character arc that he goes through throughout this movie. It's just because the movie, it takes place within a span of an entire week. It touches upon Charlie's past and everything like that, and also kind of like how his daughter Ellie feels about him and all the other things he kind of did in between. I really love this movie. I honestly think like this is probably my favorite Darren Aronofsky movie. Like I definitely agree with Matt. I don't think it's his best one. I can definitely say like that argument can be made for like Requiem for a Dream or a bunch of his other films that are also just as fantastic. But on a personal level, I love The Whale. It was probably my favorite one that he's made so far. So I loved it. So what I want to also get into is just I was looking at just, because it's award season too. So I honestly think Brendan Fraser is either going to win the Oscar or he's going to get at least nominated because he was nominated for a Golden Globe. He lost out to Austin Butler, the guy who played Elvis in the new biopic.
So there's some stuff I want to get into there, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I definitely can respect who won Austin Butler. He is a good actor. He did really good in Elvis. I enjoyed his performance for sure. But I definitely think I don't know if Brendan Fraser will win the Oscar. I want him to, but I think he's gonna get nominated for sure. That's what I think. But how do you guys like feel specifically about how he portrays Charlie's arc in this movie?
Okay, so really quick. So with Brendan Fraser, did you guys hear that he was sexually assaulted, right?
Yes.
No.
So one of the people that sexually assaulted him, he is like one of the heads of like the Golden Globes. I don't know. You have to do a little bit more research. I should pull up an article to see what I can figure out. But basically, there's like a lot of reasons why Brendan Fraser didn't win the Golden Globes. There's just a lot of shit behind the scenes. There's a lot of people kind of boycotting the Golden Globes and whatnot. So Brendan Fraser is one of them. Apparently, he supposedly said that he wasn't going to show up. Zendaya didn't show up. There's quite a few people there that were nominated that didn't show up. So,
interesting. I didn't know that part. Wow.
There is a whole controversy. I'm not doing a really good job at explaining it, but there is shit out there. There's a whole lot of reasons why Brendan Fraser didn't win the Golden Globe. I do agree with you that 100%, like, I definitely do think he'll be nominated for an Oscar this coming season. Hell, even with both of these movies, it's crazy. I just realized this is like kind of like a double Oscar feature episode we're doing here. To touch back on to Brendan Fraser's performance, he carries this thing on his shoulders, his very heavy shoulders at that. This entire movie is just hinged on his performance. And another thing that I noted too, this entire movie takes place at one location.
It does,
for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
It takes place just only in this house, which it is, for me, it's a positive, but also a negative. I think that's a reason why I don't hold this at a higher regard as to like maybe like Requiem for a Dream or one of his previous movies like The Wrestler or Black Swan. I just don't find it, from a directing standpoint, like I don't really find this movie to be very interestingly shot. There's not like a lot of interesting camera angles. There's not a lot of energy in the presentation, which compared to like his previous movie, The Wrestler, which I just recently watched for the first time like a few days ago because it made me realize like, okay, I want to finish all his movies. I want to get like more of a feel of his, discography. The Wrestler is kind of like this same story, just focuses on a character struggling with addiction, has an estranged daughter. Have either of you seen The Wrestler by any chance?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Before I get more into it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in that movie, there are more clear directing choices that I more so appreciated in that movie that weren't present in this movie. For example, in The Wrestler, there's a lot of kind of like I wouldn't know what to call it, but kind of like the camera is following him from behind. It's kind of like it's kind of shot documentary style in The Wrestler, where in this movie, The Whale, it feels a lot more just clean. Which, don't get me wrong, like that is fine. It is competently directed. That's not to say it's a bad direction by any means. I just noticed how kind of just sterile it is. It's just very normal. Like I said, I think competent is a very good word for it. It's still good. Compared to his other works, there were some directing choices that he's made with the camera, like stylistic choices that I've been more of a fan of that weren't really present in this movie.
And I feel like that's like very, very fair to say too, because it's like with this one, it's very standardly shot because it's like I could honestly feel like there's maybe 4 different like camera placements, one in the kitchen showing the living room, showing someone walking into the kitchen, one of like the frontal shot from the couch, and then one of like the couch and the door in the background. There's a lot of like very like it looks like they just had everything in like one position each time, which I can understand. Like they were limited to what they could do, but at the same time, you could be a little bit more creative with it. I feel like more like when the shots when he would stand up and you just feel like that God's view on it, where you're looking up at this character, you're like, wow, this guy is massive. This guy is tall. Like he's like, it looks like in some of the shots that his head is scraping against the ceiling sometimes, and you
Mm-hmm.
just feel like this is a whale, like in a way that you like. It kind of wants you to think of him as in that kind of sense, like larger than what any normal human being should ever be. Going to the location bit that you were talking about, like I feel in a way it's kind of taking it because if you look at all of his other bodies of work, you see that with like for instance the wrestler, there's a lot of shots where it's like following him basically, where it's shot behind him walking through like factories or walking through like the trailer or anything like that. It kind of makes you feel like in a way it's like a third person type of video game where this is like
Kind of like you're
the
there.
yeah, and it's like it's really like shot in that way, and this one, it's all in one location, and it just kind of shows you what this guy's life is like. It's very isolated. There's no real like natural sunlight a lot of the time. A lot of the times it's him alone and like at night in the dark. Not really much going on except for a TV sometimes, and he never goes outside, and it's very in a way looks kind of boring, and I feel like that was intentional for
It was.
yeah, I feel like that was intentional to show like what this guy's life is like. He doesn't,
Mhm.
and it just shows a lot more of his personality in a way too. What
It's
about you,
because
It's a
Andrew?
stylistic choice for sure.
Oh,
yeah,
definitely, yeah.
it's mainly because the whale, the movie, it's an adaptation of a theater play. So with theater plays, sometimes it's always set in one location, or like there are times where the sets will kind of shift and change. But for the most part, when it comes to doing like a stage theater production, you are limited in that regard because you can do set transitions and everything like that, but it's easier to have one set location for a majority of the play, so you're not doing so many set transitions.
And I mean, like that's another positive I do want to say. Like I said, it is kind of a positive and negative because I do find it impressive in that sense that like, okay, you made a whole like basically 2 hour movie work in one location. Like that's impressive. That's very impressive. Like
Definitely.
nonetheless, the movie still does entirely work. Yeah, it's just like I said, for me, like the stylistic choice was serviceable. It definitely got the point across. It was still well presented. Oh man, I can't remember the point I wanted to bring up. Yeah, I guess I'll just go into how did you guys feel about the daughter? Because I did notice that was something that Andrew brought up about her acting. I did think she was written a little too harsh in sometimes. Which don't get me wrong, like it is hammering home the point that she hates his guts, but it is hammering that point a little like too hard. I just can't kind of get like a lot of the same kind of scenes kind of just presented in a little bit of a different way.
Hmm.
I do think it was a little too over the top, little one note. She's only playing like this asshole girl the entire movie. You do get a little bit of a different side of her when she's interacting with Thomas. You get to see kind of a little bit more of a playful side to her. But yeah, she was okay. I just wish that she was written a bit more complexly,
Mhm.
instead of just the angry daughter who's only angry and that's the only emotion we get. How did you guys feel? What did you think about that, Andrew?
I definitely agree with what you're saying for sure. Like, I definitely think there are times where that's how she felt like she was just being written as kind of like. And as far as I know, I don't know if there was any changes. I don't think they like changed the script from the original play. I think it's the same thing. So you could put that into consideration in terms of the writing. But I do still agree. I think because no offense to Sadie Sink, because she does great in the movie overall, despite what she's given to work with. Like she does a really good job. But I do agree. I think had they maybe changed it up a bit since you are adapting it, I think with adaptations there's still that room, that leeway to kind of make changes that'll work better for the story when you're adapting it.
Yeah, I honestly I really do agree with that. The way when you told me that this is a play, like it's converted from a play, it really actually kind of cemented. Like I was like, oh, that's why it's like really like like over the top in a lot of ways, just because that's kind of how plays are. They have a lot
Hmm.
of just like reactionary, like just snap to the emotion type of dialogue. She doesn't
Hmm.
have really any dialogue that's like just mellow, chill, calm, and like. But a lot of it is just you left me here, like I will tell everyone that you raped me or something like that. Like it's very like Jesus Christ, girl. Like, can you just talk like a normal human being sometimes? Like,
Yes.
good
Yeah. Thank
lord.
you.
Like you're out here taking
I
pictures of dead
that
animals and
too. I felt while watching it, I was just like, okay, uh, as someone who grew up in a similar situation with with my parents, I was kind of like, okay, I get it. She's mad, but you just give her something else to say and to do.
yeah, and
Kind of.
a lot of it was like repeating, like how Matt said, like where she was like, "Do this." Oh, okay, you're not gonna do it. I'm leaving, or I'm going on my phone, or I'm leaving, or I'm going on my phone. It was a lot of like, it's like it just didn't really like. Whenever she would talk, there was a lot of points where I kind of felt like Brandon Fraser kind of got like a little shafted a little bit because I feel like there was a lot of moments where he could say a lot more than what he did, but
Mhm.
it just seems like that's more so on the way it was written instead of
Yeah.
like the performances. Because I know Sadie Sink is like an amazing actress. Like I feel like she's gonna have like a long freaking career, and I'm really looking forward to that. I want to see what she does later on in life. But
Hmm.
with Brandon Fraser, he hits at home, and I feel like when they do have those emotional scenes where it's like more like sad rather than like the bickering that's very one sided. I am honestly really like compelled by both of their performances in those moments.
So
There is another character I wanted to get into though.
please
What did you guys?
please tell me it's Liz. Do you want to talk about Liz?
Yeah,
Yes.
she was the next character I really wanted to get into because
Dude.
she gave another great performance too, but
Hmm.
that also introduced like another kind of complex element of the story.
Yeah.
Because like in a way, like she is the one killing him.
Mm-hmm.
Like she can't ever say no to feeding him. Like she's basically his supplier. And
Hmm.
it's insane because it's like it's just it's crazy because it comes from a place of love and it's not like she's like intentionally like trying to kill him or anything, but yeah, it just it really gets you thinking about like those kind of things. And like kind of like Andrew, like hell, I've experienced similar stuff like that within my own family. And those are tough questions, those are tough situations that you get put into. And yeah, it was a really interesting aspect that this movie chose to explore. What did you guys think of Liz?
I loved her. She was very the actress. I had her name somewhere in
Hong
my notes.
Choi.
Hong Choi. Yeah, she was fantastic. She did really really good acting wise. I was just like, oh my god, has she been in other stuff? Like, I don't think she has a huge filmography because I was looking into it earlier today, and I couldn't find like she's been in like if she's been like in a lot of stuff, but it doesn't look like she has. This I think this will help her career for sure because she was really really fucking good. And to talk about your point earlier about how Liz is kind of an enabler, she definitely is. Like, and it is coming from a place of love, and it's even that more tragic to watch the story play out because you're like, there's even times where she tries to tell Charlie like, "Hey, I can't help you anymore. I'm limited. Like, you need to go to a hospital," but he just won't go. And I think that was really really tragic, but really great story to see on screen. What about you, Rico? What did you think of Liz?
I feel the same exact way. She was an enabler. She wanted the best for him, but at the same time, she knew he just didn't want to change. Essentially, no, he just wouldn't listen to her, and in a way, it almost seemed like she kind of wanted him to continue on his downfall in some like in the beginning of the movie. It just kind of really seemed like that because I don't know, man. It just seems like her whole thing is that she wants to save someone, and she just can't get over the fact that she wasn't able to save her brother, both
Mm-hmm.
from her parents when he was alive, from his eventual decision. And same thing with Brendan Fraser. She just couldn't do it. And I feel like that's like her whole coping mechanism, is to help other people, because it's the only way that she feels like she can help herself. And I really like that aspect of how she deals with her own trauma, because in this movie, every single person is traumatized by something.
Hmm.
And it's just really interesting seeing how she decided to go about it. Because it's
Well,
like,
that's another thing to bring up too, like the religious aspect too.
yeah, yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but
With
go ahead.
Thomas, huh?
I mean, so,
Yeah, and just with the whole, the whole path with Brendan Fraser's lover, which okay, well, we didn't say it before, but yeah, there's a whole full spoiler discussion. It wasn't really put in the marketing. But Brendan Fraser's character Charlie is gay in the movie. His past lover committed suicide, and it was I can't remember the exact reasoning, but it had to do with the church. Can you guys freshen me up on that? I only saw the movie once a few weeks ago.
Andrew, I'll let you take that one.
so it's I can't remember the name of the church that
New Life.
New Life. There
Yeah,
we go.
that Thomas was a part of. Yeah.
New Life was basically they were more or less they were portrayed in the I don't know if they're a real religion, but they represented a type of cultism. Just from the way they're like a religious cult because they definitely believe in stuff like God and how it's touched upon further down the line with Thomas. I can't remember the
Missionary.
exact missionary. There we go. For him showing up to Charlie's house and trying to pitch him this new religion, and Charlie already knows all about it because Liz's brother was also his like lover. Alan and him were in a relationship when he was teaching in college, like in person, and he met Alan, and then they waited until the semester ended to start their relationship. And Charlie had left. I can't remember the name of his ex-wife, but he had left his ex-wife because she was like an alcoholic, and there was like
Mary.
Mary. There we go. Yes, and they had their own issues in the relationship, so he left them when Ellie was 8 years old, I believe. And then New Life basically was kind of like I can't remember the exact context of what happened, but more or less he committed suicide because of like his father not being able to accept that he was gay or accept his homosexuality. Like he just couldn't, like it was like against the religion and everything. So it led to Alan killing himself because he just couldn't handle the fact that his family turned their backs on him in a way. And that sort of adds into Charlie's kind of character arc because kind of what I picked up on, I feel like Charlie, he's a character. Where is it? I wrote it down in my notes because I remember when I thought about this, I was like, oh my God, this is actually really fitting for him. But pretty much, he's a character who didn't own up to his own truth. So in turn, he's trying to make amends and, heal his guilt by teaching others to be truthful to themselves. Like when he was teaching his online seminar, it was like the opening of the movie, I think. And he says, and I wrote the quote, or I wrote the line down because I thought it was a really interesting line. He tells his students basically that, I know these rules can feel constraining, but remember, the point of this course is to write clearly and persuasively. Think about that. Think about your truth of your argument. And when he said, and when that line was said, I was just like, oh, wow. That really gives you a lot to like, it helps you think a lot, not even just as like a writer, but just like as a person in general. It gives you, it's a lot of food for thought kind of thing. So that's what I really liked about Charlie's character arc and Brendan Fraser's performance because he portrays that so well throughout the movie.
What you were saying about find your own truth and pursue your own truth and convey that persuasively. It really shows with Thomas too. When he was speaking to Thomas, it's like midway through the movie, I believe. I think it was his second visit. Brendan Fraser asks Thomas, like, do you think I'm disgusting? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and then he asks Thomas, like, do you think I'm disgusting? And then he says no. And then later on, towards the end of the movie, when he has his final moment with Thomas, he's going over it. He asks him again. He tells him, like, what his body is. He tells them, yes, I am gay. Yes, we made love. We would do it all the time, and we loved just holding each other naked. And we just loved each other. Does that make you feel uncomfortable? And then he was just kept going on, like, I am big. I have I have ulcers on my ass. I have like rough spots in between my folds. I have all this stuff. Basically, at the end of it, he gets Thomas to finally be honest and tell him how he actually feels, and tells him that yes, you are disgusting. Throughout all of it, that is just Brendan Fraser's pursuit of like getting other people to be completely honest, so that he can feel honest with himself and showing himself to his class or to his students.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a very like poignant way of going about things. How'd you feel about that, Matt?
No, I think it was an important redemption. Like I said, I love that this movie is like a redemption for Brendan Fraser and the character of Charlie as well. Like he is finally learning to just, you know, kind of be comfortable in his own skin just by him just turning on the webcam at the end where he finally shows himself to his students. And damn, you can see that, you know, no pun intended, but like, you know, somewhat of a weight lifted off his shoulders to kind of like finally be kind of like naked in a way with that being like that truthful to open up that way because he's been that way for like what better part of a decade, I believe, which
Mm-hmm.
is crazy because like there is like a shot early on where it's established that he's on the second story. So like he really can't leave where he is. Like he's been there for years upon years, and the only people that see him are, you know, Liz, and that's about it. Like even his estranged wife hasn't even seen him in that long, and when she finally sees him, she's like, "Oh my god! Like you've been doing this to yourself for so long. Why didn't you say anything?" And so, yeah, it was really powerful to finally see him kind of like go through these trials and tribulations to get that redemptive arc at the end where he does finally get to stand up and walk towards his daughter. It felt earned at that point.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think, Andrew?
And before we go into that, I also want to hop back real quick to the analyzation of religion in the movie, because I found it it was very interesting. It was basically kind of like showing you. I'm not 100% sure if it was like they were painting religion in a negative light, but more of kind of pointing out the plot holes within religion itself, kind of how you could use religion as a way to make yourself feel better, or you could get into religion because it's forced upon you at a young age. Like I like the different kinds of perspectives on it. Like because with Thomas's character, he was like a fuck up as a kid. I remember that's kind of what he was explaining to Ellie. He was like, "No, yeah, I smoked weed, I did this, and I stole money from the the donation thing or whatever from the church." And then he ran away, and that's why he was at Charlie's house and everything. And I just think it's really interesting because it's like religion could also be used to like manipulate people who are broken. So I just found that analyzation of it very interesting. What did you guys think about that, though?
Yeah, I gotta agree because it kind of just hammers home like the like go to argument with religion, where it's like it preaches about being loving and accepting, and everyone is beautiful and you should love everyone, but then at the same time it also has like very negative connotations about like people that are gay, and it's really is shown in this one with basically the prejudice that Thomas had towards Charlie and Alan as well, because Thomas pulls out Alan's Bible and then goes to that scene, that little part that he highlighted, and he's like, "See, like even he was so like he chose to rather die and like redeem himself than be gay, basically," and it really misconstrued everything that was going on with Alan, Charlie's partner. It misconstrued everything that was going on with him internally, and that really set Charlie off. And it's
Like, how are you gonna tell me like how you like that's what he was thinking? Like the audacity.
Mm-hmm.
exactly the
Like,
audacity. Exactly, that's exactly what it is too. Because it says that everyone is beautiful, everyone, but he's not being honest, and it's just like he's just projecting how he thinks that should be go, but also be like condemning this person at the same time, and it's completely wrong.
Yeah, it's just like the most like vile shit you could see, and you're kind of like, bro, and you're using religion as a shield. Like, fuck you. Like, that's not even like, oh my god, like it just like, and to think there's people like that in the real world, you're just like, oh god, you know, which adds to kind of like how powerful Brendan Fraser's performance is because Charlie is a character of like pure belief in people, not religion, not faith, not an ideology, but people. Like he believes in people, and I think that's it. It's really shown, and it's really compelling throughout the movie.
How did you guys feel about? Oh, this is like another like slightly criticism I have. I wish his online students like talked a little bit more.
Yeah, they
Like
were
I
only
found
there
it
for.
so
Oh, yeah.
weird when he revealed himself. Like nobody saying anything. You just see like the most blank reactions. I'm just like,
Yeah,
what? Why?
I mean you
Everything
can.
else is so good here.
Yeah,
Brendan Fraser is like killing it, but these background people, man.
yeah,
Give it nothing.
you can see
Yeah.
like a phone like start sliding into frame, but that's really it, and it really there's nothing else to it. Like they have no character.
That's true.
But freaking yeah, I think you guys brought up some really good points about the religion. I definitely think that is definitely like a huge theme of the movie, along with all of its other themes of like abandonment, its gay themes, redemption, all that stuff. I think it's just packaged really nicely here and a very very emotional script. I really enjoyed this movie. Is there anything else you guys kind of want to get into?
Would you
Is there any
guys
other aspects?
would you guys like to talk about the final scene between Charlie and Sadie Sink?
Yes, I was just about to bring that up. There's also something else I want to mention too that was at the beginning of the movie that will help the ending scene make a little more sense. So again, full spoilers, guys. If you have not seen the will and you want to see it, don't listen to this next part. So at the beginning of the movie, I'm sure you guys remember when Charlie's having that panic attack, and it's pretty bad, pretty severe, and that's when Thomas like first walked into the door and everything, and he had Thomas read this essay about Moby Dick. And it was someone being like brutally honest and critical, being like, well, you know, this is kind of pretentious and blah, 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 blah. And you see that Brendan Fraser's character, Charlie, remembers it word for word. And towards the end of the movie, you find out that it was Ellie, his daughter, who wrote that essay. And he's had it for years. And he's just always just reading it and reading it because he believes that Ellie was like the one good thing he did in life. Like she was just absolutely good. There was no mistakes made with her. She's a great daughter and a beautiful person. So she starts reading him the essay, and he's trying to get up to walk towards her, and you see because they tried it once before in the movie where she's trying to get him to stand up and walk, but he couldn't do it. He just kind of fell on the ground. And then at the end, he's like actually getting up. You see him stand on his 2 feet, and like the visual effects on like that the fat suit Brendan Fraser wore was really good. Like you just kind of see like kind of all the flabs and kind of creases and everything. And he's walking towards her, and she's reading the entire essay, and it just ends with him dying of a heart attack because in the movie it was revealed that he had congestive heart failure, so he was bound to die within that week. So he died walking towards his daughter while she was reading her essay to him, and I just felt like it was really, really powerful and compelling ending. And I didn't cry, but I was close. I was tearing up. You can ask Matt; he was there with me. I was like, dude, oh my god.
Yeah, I was starting to swell up, so that's how I know if I'm swelling up, people are crying.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I was weeping. I was crying so hard on that. Just because for him in like the first quarter of the movie, Sadie, what's her name? Ellie.
Ellie.
She tells him like, then stand up and come over to me. And now in his final moments, he's like, this means something. Like, and I thought it was so adorable that like in the beginning of the movie when he thought he was gonna die and he had the other person read to him because he just wanted to hear it out loud. That was his final. That was the last thing he wanted to hear was his daughter's words. And the running theme with this movie and a little like realization that he has like towards the end of it when he's talking to Liz is that Liz says she doesn't believe that people can save each other. Like she doesn't believe that you can save anyone. and then he realizes that Ellie, in her own way, saved Thomas by having him like clear things up with his family and his religion and go back home, basically. And so he wants to tell her and reassure her that she is beautiful. She doesn't have to be living in the way that other people expect her to live, and that she is like this amazing person and just trying to build her up. And by doing so, he's trying to save her, and I feel like he does, like
Mhm.
by the end of it. So it's just a really beautiful moment, especially when he towards the end when he does pass away, his feet lift from the ground, and this person that's been like weighed down by his body, by all of his trauma, by losing everyone and just feeling ugly and unwanted and alone, like all these things that were weighing him down, he finally felt like weightless, and he felt like he could just float off. And I thought that was beautiful.
Mhm. Definitely, dude. That was some oof, incredible storytelling.
You know what it made me think of?
Hmm.
Have you guys ever watched Encanto?
Like
I've
the
been meaning to. It's on my list. The new Disney movie.
Yeah,
yeah.
there's
Okay.
there's a song called Surface Pressure. I cry on it a lot, and I always listen to it just to cry. It reminded me of that fucking song. And if you watch that, then watch this, and I'm like, you'll be like, oh, I get it. I like it. I understand what he was talking about now.
Okay.
I'm not
Duly
gonna
noted.
I'm not gonna
For sure.
spoil Encanto for you. I mean, just go watch that. That's great.
I will. Yeah, it's definitely one of the few Pixar movies I haven't watched. I'll get around to it.
For sure.
So okay, so there actually is one more thing I want to talk about, and then we can get into ratings.
Mhm.
Um, what did you guys interpret? What do you guys think they were trying to say with the pizza man?
Oh, you know what? Dan the pizza guy. That was his name, Dan.
Dan the
Yeah,
Pizza Man.
yeah, because he's a reoccurring character that you don't see until the last delivery before Charlie passes away. Dan waits, and we get to see Dan. And
Mhm.
so I guess Dan wants to see Charlie. I guess it's not really established how long he's been delivering pizza for, but it seems like it's been like a years maybe, and they've never seen each other. And so yeah, what did you guys? How did you guys interpret that? Do you think that was just another way of showing how long he's been isolated in this location for, or do you think they're trying to say something deeper with it? Just curious what you guys had to say about that. It
There's a
could be
lot.
nothing, to be honest, but
I mean, no,
I was just
like
curious because it did stand out to me.
because no. I definitely it's that whole thing of kind of like with any kind of movie or show or anything you watch. Like, why did they put that in there? Like, it makes you think. And I mean, one way I kind of perceived it was kind of like he's like Dan was like an outsider looking in kind of thing, and he finally got to see what was inside because he was always, if anything, I'm pretty sure he's probably curious what Charlie looked like because Charlie would never come out, but he would leave the money. Like he had a routine, and there was a reason he didn't want to be seen, and Dan didn't know why until he finally saw him in the last scene we saw him in.
I also
Yeah,
feel
and
like
you'd always be checking on him, like, "You okay in there, Charlie?"
Yeah,
I was
that's
like,
nice.
"Oh."
What a nice
also
guy.
I
well
guess another way I can interpret it too is like that's like also like the closest relationship he has with somebody because he has no one else in his life. Like that's also another way you can interpret it because he doesn't have like any friends. Like Dan the pizza man is the closest friend that he kind of has.
yeah, with my interpretation of it was slightly different. It was in Charlie's mind, it was like this is a person that's trying to reach out to me, but he's like afraid to even like accept it because he knows what he looks like. He even states it at one point throughout the movie. I think he's talking to his ex-wife. He says, "Come on, like look at me. Like who would want me in their life?" And so he feels like this person, Dan, the pizza man, is reaching out to him, and it's like a possibility. Like throughout the movie, he's just like, "Why is this guy trying to talk to me?" Like, and it just seems like it's kind of like setting out hope that maybe he can have like connections to the outside world. And then when he goes out and Dan's looking at him, and Dan like is like ugh, like disgusted, and then runs away. it sets him off because it's just like it confirms like what Charlie feared the most of just being rejected, and it really does set him off, and it leads to him spiraling with his class and everything. But in a way, it just kind of shows like his hesitation on wanting to be a part of someone's life because he feels like if someone saw him, it would confirm his fears, and that really hit me hard too. I was like, oh god.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for like a background character to come back around like that. Yeah, okay, I'm glad I got to hear your thoughts on that, Rico. I actually like that interpretation a lot more.
No, yeah, I like it way more than mine. I was like, oh my god, that probably is why he was there. And I was like, that's probably the reason Dan was there. That's probably the reasoning story wise.
Yeah.
But that's what I love about writing like this is that it can be interpreted one of a few ways. It doesn't like spell it out for you. Like this is exactly how you're supposed to feel. Like the movie is kind of like playing with like a lot of complex emotions here. And I love that like moments like that you can play into like you can interpret it this way or you can interpret it this way. Or like with Ellie and Thomas, like was she really trying to help him, or was she just trying to, make his life a living hell? Like, oh hey, look what he's doing. I mean, it does seem I do agree with the fact that like she was trying to help him, but I could see the argument being made that like no, she is evil. She just wanted to show his parents like how rotten he is, or like what he's doing, or whatever. But I'm a big fan of the writing of this movie, the directing of this movie, the Brendan Frasers of this movie. I like this movie quite a bit. Are there any other things you guys want to get into, or do you guys want to get into ratings?
No, I feel like I'm pretty good. Yeah. What about you, Andrew?
Yeah, we can get into ratings for sure. I think I got everything that I want to talk about out, so I'm ready to rate it and move on to the next movie.
Okay, yeah, same here. I'll go first on this one. I'll rate this one first. This is a good Aronofsky flick. I wouldn't put it up there with my favorites of his. I still put Black Swan, The Wrestler, Requiem for a Dream above this one. Hell, I think I might even like The Fountain a little bit more than this one, but I still think this is a great movie. It's definitely not his worst. Have you guys seen Noah by any chance?
Briefly, like I've seen
Okay.
but not the entire thing.
Yeah, it's not a great Aronofsky flick. But not to deviate too far from that, but yeah, this movie is still pretty amazing in the sense that the writing is really good. The directing is competent, serviceable. I think Aronofsky was still a good choice to direct it, given his past experience with other films and with similar subject matter. I thought the fat suit on Brendan Fraser looked great. He's giving a fantastic performance. Everyone here is really doing a good job. I had some slight criticisms with Sadie Sink, but other than that, everyone did great here. I still think this is a very powerful movie that has a lot to say about a lot of things, and yeah, I think it pulls it off very well, and I enjoyed this one quite a bit. Curious to see what it'll win during Oscar season. Root for Mr. Fraser there, but we'll see. We will see. So yeah, I'm gonna rate this an 8 out of 10.
I honestly am gonna rate it like I was thinking of doing like a high 7, but I was like, no. I weeped on this movie. I'm gonna give it an 8 because there was just a lot of every single aspect of Charlie was just coming to terms with himself, and then also trying to deal with the trauma of living past and beyond someone that has committed suicide. And a lot of people ask him, how could you let this happen to yourself? How could you get to this point? And it just shows that when you're depressed, when you're struggling with moving on after someone has made a decision like that, all the pain that that person had kind of transfers over to you, and you just feel so guilty for not being able to save that person, for not being able to recognize it sooner and thinking that you were doing it right in the past, and then in hindsight just hate yourself and not even realize how badly you're giving in to all of your inhibitions and just trying to dull the pain of what that was. And before he knew it, he ended up being morbidly obese to the point where it killed him. And it's just like it's a very like a great way of showing it, because in his partner Alan, he starved himself. It was the opposite of him, and then eventually he jumped off a bridge. But like it's just it's a very heartbreaking like movie, I would feel like, and that's why I would rate this at an 8 out of 10. Even though it's all shot in the same scene, even or in the same location, even though Sadie Sink kind of in some scenes like she kind of borders on like annoying child, like where you just kind of hate her performance, but at the same time it's what she's given, and then she also is very, she has some really great scenes too, so I can't knock her off on that. But all in all, great fucking movie. I really enjoyed it. What about you, Andrew? I'm really curious to hear what you say about this.
All right. Well, if it wasn't obvious already, I fucking love this movie. It was really good. I'm always saying that I love movies. It's just I just love them in general. I love watching movies. They're great. So with The Whale, I'm probably gonna give it a 9 out of 10. I absolutely love Brendan Fraser's performance. That's honestly one of the biggest factors to why I'm giving it such a high score. On top of that, it's that inner theater kid in me. Like I love that a play can get this much attention and garner so much respect and get such great performances, and you have such a fantastic director like Darren Aronofsky. So it's really great. I loved all the themes, all the messaging within it, the whole concept and theme of you need to be true to who you are and true to your story, your argument. So I really loved all that within the movie. So 9 out of 10. Brendan Fraser, if he does not get an Oscar, I will burn down the fucking Academy, because this dude fucking crushed it in that movie. So 9 out of 10. That's my final score.
Hey, man.
Boom.
Hey, look at this.
Fucking did it.
Look at this. We had a musical last week, and then this week we're doing a play.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what next week will be.
Oh, stick around to the end to find.
Yes, we'll actually mention it this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck. Our bad, guys. We totally fucking spaced this last episode.
Andrew made up for it. All right, he submitted a video for that.
People got to see me in a Mandalorian helmet. What more could the people ask? Are you not entertained? Like, all right. So with ratings done, you guys ready to get into the next movie?
Yes, sir.
Do this. The next movie, it's also a new release movie technically. So we're actually doing two new releases. New release double feature. Awesome. Both A24 movies too. Another double feature. Love that. So the movie we're going to be talking about now is The Banshees of Inisherin, which again stars Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell and was directed by Martin McDonagh. And also, quick thing, since I mentioned the Golden Globes earlier with The Whale, The Banshees of Inisherin actually won the Golden Globe for Best Comedy/Musical Film, and Colin Farrell won the Golden Globe for Best Actor in a Comedy or Musical Series. So that just goes to show how fucking good this movie really is. Like, Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell do fantastic. And with that being said, let's get into the plot of the movie. So the plot of the movie follows two Irishmen named Partick and Colum, who used to be best friends, but Colum abruptly ends their lifelong friendship, which leads to some honestly wild and crazy consequences. So, Rico, what did you think of the movie? Did you enjoy Banshees of Inisherin? How are we feeling?
Yeah, actually, I really enjoyed this because I feel like there was a big part of it that I just kind of didn't pick up on, and I was really curious to see if you guys. We'll talk about it later on. I won't go into it right now. I'll bring it up later. But it really just shows in this movie, everyone is just depressed, and it's like trying to come to terms with being depressed, but also it not being a priority that people like really speak out about. It's very something. It's very much something that is just get over it. Like, just get over it. But everyone is struggling so bad with it. And it honestly makes me kind of question something towards the end that I'll bring up later on too. But all in all, I really enjoyed this movie. it set the tone very, very well, and then just kind of started like getting amped up more and more towards the end. And I'm just really ready to talk about this more in depth. Matt, how about you, man? What were your initial thoughts and reactions to this?
Okay, really quick before I go any further, correction. Both of these movies are not A24. Banshees was made by Searchlight Pictures, and The Whale was made by. Okay, you're actually right there. That it was distributed by A24, but it was produced by Protozoa Pictures.
Oh, I saw that.
Gotcha. Okay, I remember seeing the A24 logo, so I was like, oh, so they did have a hand in this movie.
Yeah, I saw that
they
too.
did. They distributed The Whale. Yeah, that is correct. Okay, but yeah, to get back to Banshees, yeah, I fucking love this movie. Yeah, first time I watched it, I knew I loved it. Just within the first 2 minutes, I am just swept away by the gorgeous landscapes here. Like, I just think the cinematography in this film is just immaculate. I have to give my hat off to Ben Davis, cinematographer here. Just some beautiful, beautiful shots here. Some beautiful Irish scenery that we see in this movie. It's just breathtaking. Like, watching it on my OLED TV, it looks beautiful. And I'm sure watching it on your guys' TV, like, it translates well. Like, you could just tell the color just oozing off the screen. Like, every like shot here is like it looks like a painting. Like, everything here just looks just so lived in. It just looks beautiful, and it's crazy to me because I think the budget for this movie was only like $3 million. Like, it's just crazy to me for how low budget, how kind of low stakes this movie is. We get so many kind of complex emotions out of it. Yeah, I really love this movie. It's an interesting kind of dissection of like friendships, kind of art, love. It has a lot to say about a lot of stuff, and yeah, I got a lot out of it this time around. What did you guys think about it? What about you, Andrew?
I fucking love this movie. It was so great. There was a lot of really cool themes. To kind of circle back to Rico's point about the depression, it's very much there. Like, for a fact, everyone on that island is depressed, but they each convey it in very different ways. And one thing I just kind of want to like get into it now with the whole premise of the movie. How did you guys feel about the way Clem ended the friendship with Pardik? Do you think he was a little too dramatic? Do you think he was perfectly justified? How did you feel about that, Rico?
All right, so I feel like he was very dramatic because it's like if you're going through that kind of stuff, I feel like instead of just immediately cutting off, no explanation, he should have given him an explanation, communicated. But throughout this movie, communicating like feelings is very, very difficult, and it's always held at arm's length. And I don't understand why it just wasn't like addressed in the beginning. If he gave him a clear answer, it would have saved like because half the movie, Podrick is basically struggling, just trying to be like, why doesn't he like me anymore? Like what happened? And he just never gives him an answer to. And then eventually he just says, "I just find you dull." I feel like if he just had that dialogue at the beginning, it would have worked.
I don't fully agree with you there, though, because
I'll
in the
push
movie,
back a little on that.
Yeah, and Matt, feel free to hop on when I'm done, because I think you and I are on the same page with this. Because in the movie, he does explain to Pardik why he doesn't want to be friends with him anymore. Because at first, it's more of like he just shuts him down completely, and Pardik doesn't really get any answers. But then there's one scene outside the bar later where Colum is talking to Pardik, and he's explaining that he's like, look, I've wasted so much of my life just listening to you talk about your dumb bullshit, and I have done nothing with mine. And in a way, it's like you can feel that Colum is kind of resentful towards Pardik because he, in his own mental state, he believes that Pardik kind of held him back from doing more things that he wanted to do. But you could also see that as sort of like not 100% true because Colum still kind of wasn't motivating himself, and now he's sort of using Pardik as an excuse.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's why I don't fully agree with you when you say that like he doesn't give him an answer because he does, but it's just he gives him the answer like way fucking later than he should have. Like he should have just said that.
Exactly. Yeah, instead of ignoring him for the entire day, he should have just said that immediately.
Mm-hmm. Well, the reason I'll push back on that is because you get to see why he doesn't like him. You get to see Colin, you get to see Podrick's habits throughout the movie, and you understand why Colin feels the way he does. You're like, okay, he doesn't have anything going on. He even told him like, okay, if you weren't like harassing me, like what would you be doing with your day? And he was like, what? He's like, if you weren't coming to like bullshit with me, what would you be doing, Podrick? And like he doesn't know what to say. And so it's like, okay, it's very clear why he doesn't want to be friends with him anymore. Like, yes, like I agree, like it is a bit sudden and dramatic, and there is an argument to be made there. Like, yeah, he could have been more clear from the get-go, and this whole thing could have been avoided. But, you know, like I said, we wouldn't have a movie, and I feel like the movie is touching on a lot more deeper themes than to, you know, present it that way, because, you know, given with how the movie went out, there's a lot of shit kind of going on in play, because Colin wants to write this song piece, which ends up being the title of the movie, The Banshees of Inisherin. And, you know, I also do find it interesting that like he's trying to write this song, and, you know, in doing so, because you know how like when you're growing up, you know, a lot of artists, you know, are, you know, they're very tragic kind of characters. And I guess that's kind of like what I find tragic about, you know, Brendan's character is that, you know, as the movie, I won't get into spoilers for now, but, you know, given what he starts doing to himself to, you know, get Podrick to stay away from him, it's kind of tragic because he does finish the song and he puts out, you know, this piece of art, but he can't make any more after this. And I feel like there's kind of an in beauty of that in and of itself, because it gives the song that he wrote more meaning. There's a story behind it. The whole event of this movie gives the song that he wrote more meaning, The Banshees of Inisherin. And yeah, I love that like the movie is presented in the way it does, because if it was presented in the way of like Brendan Gleeson's character just telling him right off the bat like every specific detail why he doesn't like him, I felt like it would have been a lot less interesting.
Definitely.
So like, yeah, I like the structure a lot more this time around, because I felt like way more purpose in it. And so, yeah.
Because
go ahead.
Sorry, it's just I'm glad you brought that up, because I wrote in my notes that Colum has every right to sort of end this friendship with Pardik for his own like mental you know, for his own mental health. Like it's just he can't keep being friends with Pardik because Pardik is just kind of like he's not really progressing in life. He's staying exactly where he is. He's not doing anything.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, the movie makes it abundantly clear why Pardik is not exactly a great friend either. Like he doesn't throughout the movie, he doesn't really seem to listen to what Colum is saying. He's just taking it at face value and then just misperceiving it completely.
Well, I disagree there, actually. I think Podrick is like a nice person. Like I think that's another great point that he brings up too. Like what you're doing, Colum, like it's not nice. And like even like Saban, his sister, like brings it up too. Like, yeah, like the way you're approaching this, like the way you're treating him, like it's just not nice. And like it's true. Like even though like his actions were extreme, you don't know how long Colum and Podrick have been doing this. Like they could have been doing this for like 30 years, 40 years. Like just because like it's because Colum Podrick stays the same throughout the whole movie. It's just Colum is the one that changes. He's the one
Mm.
that feels different. And I mean, there's points in our lives where we feel that way, you know,
Yeah.
where like you may feel different the next day or whatnot. And in his case, he just feels like he's wasted so much time. He's obviously seems a lot older than Podrick, maybe by like 10, 15 years or so. So feels like a lot of time's been wasted. You know, he wants to spend the rest of his time perfecting his craft. He wants to get better at music. He wants to create art. He wants to give back to the world. He wants something to last. He wants his life to mean something. And then Podrick's ideology is completely opposite. He doesn't give a shit about art or music or, you know, Bach or like, you know, any of those, you know, like any of those artists or anything.
Like most and like a lot of
Most, sorry, my bad. Yeah, I was saying Bach, but I was like, I know that's not
yeah,
right. Thank
mentioned.
you.
I want to get to that because I did want to talk about that where they have that confrontation in the bar. I actually really liked both their ideologies in terms of like what meaning you can bring to your life, whether you do something that's long lasting or you do something that's enough for the people around you. Because the way I look at it, it's kind of like what you were saying. They have very opposite ideologies when it comes to that. Like for me, I kind of look at it as like Pardik. What matters to him are the people in his life who you're nice to. You know, they're going to remember you for being nice, and they're going to remember you for being there and being a friend and being caring, which I think in Pardik's mind is more impactful to life in general versus, you know, not caring what other people think, but making an impact on, you know, the world as a whole. And where for Clem, it's like he'd rather be remembered not as fondly, but he did something that matters. So it's just kind of like, which ideology do you agree with more kind of thing, and within that subject matter of what you bring to the table in terms of the life you lived.
Exactly, and I feel like that really like shines on their ideologies on how they perceive like legacies. Like there's people that are just like more concerned with like their family, and then there's other people that want to leave behind a lasting thing that can be acknowledged by the general people. You don't actually know what a lot of the people that are famous, like what their personalities were. But at the same time, you also know everything about like the people that really made a personal impact in your life. Like, let's say you had a grandfather that took you in and was basically your parent. Like that person shaped who you were way more than someone that like a Mozart in their life. You know, some people are impacted more by past famous people rather than people in their immediate life. And I feel like on this island, it's very isolated, and the people just. I feel like they just fall into certain categories, which I'll get into later on. But Matt, I want to hear what you think about that.
Yeah, I do find it to be like an interesting like little microcosm of like just, you know, small town people and like these ideologies all within like this confined space, and just kind of using Inisherin to kind of like explore these aspects and all these avenues. And yeah, another thing I wanted to get into like as well is the you know, the war going on in the background. I believe it says it's like the tail end of like World War I or something like that. But I did find it kind of interesting because it's not like a primary focus on it, but I did kind of find it like, I mean, I could just be, you know, reading a little too much into it, but I kind of took it as like a metaphor for like what's going on between the two of them, because they're kind of bickering and fighting in the process. And I think the ultimate lesson by the end of the movie is that war doesn't really solve anything. It hurts both sides. You know, both of you might come out alive on the other side, but you're really severely wounded, and you know, you didn't really solve anything. And you know, like I said, if Brendan Gleeson would have approached it much differently, and you know, kind of approached it in a much more, I guess, like, how do I put it? I guess, more lighthearted way, try to set him down a little bit easier, we could have had a totally different outcome. We wouldn't have had like so much shit hit the fan that we see later on in the movie. Yeah, I just think it's really powerful. What do you think, Andrew?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I definitely agree. I think the war is there for a reason because in the movie they specify it's a civil war.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a war among the people of Inisherin itself. It's not like because I remember them saying it was the I can't remember the name of it, but they said that something war is still going on. And it's like you said, that metaphor of the war could be applied to both Pardik and Colum because they're having a civil war themselves between each other. Like they're literally bickering, doing such crazy things to one another to just kind of, hurt each other, but they're hurting themselves in the process while trying to hurt each other. So that's more or less like you were saying, it's that metaphor of war that like war will do more harm than good and no one comes out on top.
Yeah, with I can't remember who the character was that said it, but apparently the Civil War happened after they were actually completely united and fighting a different war, and I guess they were fighting Britain or something like that. I can't remember what they said, but they were
Britain.
yeah, and they were fighting Britain, and then I guess after that happened, they just decided to start fighting each other, and the character said. Yeah, I liked it better when they were working together. Now when they're just fighting, they I don't even know what they're fighting about now, and it's completely like symbolic of the relationship between Colum and Podrick. I can't never pronounce his name. Is it Podrick or
Podrick?
Pardik.
Podrick and Colum. All right, yeah, there you go.
Pardik and Colum.
Pardik.
That's you know what that
Pardik.
Padraic.
Pardrick, I guess, or Podrick. But because of the accent, it sounds more like Pardik.
Yeah, it's so difficult. Yeah, it's so difficult. And I think there's like two characters that have like similar sounding names. So I'm like, damn it.
Mm-hmm. There's another thing that I want to bring up, like just kind of like on the subject of accents. I like kind of like with the last episode we did, which was with the man who wasn't there. Like I like the lingo and the kind of like
the dialect,
like the how do the I will so the telltale. Like they have like, and it's like you like in the context of the movie, you kind of get what those phrases mean. But I just find it interesting because it's like, oh, I haven't heard this kind of dialect or slang before, so it's interesting to hear.
Yeah, it really.
Have you guys been rowing?
Yeah,
rowing. Rowing? I didn't think we were rowing. Or rowing. They were rowing. Oh, and what was it? Instead of saying fuck, they say
feckin'.
Feckin'. Yeah.
Feckin'. It was so weird.
Instead of, I don't care. Or I remember Pardik when he was going off on Colum in the bar, and he's like, I don't give a fuck about those funny name fackers. And I was just like, shit. Like, it's a very serious scene, but it's just when you're unfamiliar with a kind of like dialect, you're like, it's kind of funny just because I've never heard it said like that before.
Yeah, and there's one scene like towards the end when Podrick is getting really pissed off and he just says, "I don't fucking care." He says "fucking." I was like, wait, so "fucking" is actually a term in this time, but there's what? It all threw me off. I wasn't sure if it was like a fuck up or if it was just like interchangeable, but it's just more commonly used.
I think it was interchangeable because I had a couple other characters say "you fuck" instead too.
Oh, it threw me off, man. I was completely thrown off. I was like, oh god, a curse word.
But also with that that whole bar argument, I kind of liked how at the end, Pardik is kind of like he says his full name. He's like I'm Pardik Sullivan and I'm nice. He's just like, because I don't care about your whole leaving an impact. Like he's like, I'm just a nice guy. Like it's whatever. And I liked how his sister Siobhan had his back too, and she was correcting Colum because he was talking about how Mozart was a 18th century composer, and she corrected him and told him like, no, he was in the 17th century, but like because he's trying to sound smarter than Pardik, but he didn't have the right century for Mozart anyway. So
I think it was actually flipped the centuries. I think he was saying 17, but it's actually 18.
I'm Andrew, and I'm a nice guy.
I'm Rico. I breed. Siobhan.
Siobhan.
Oh God.
So
Yeah.
how did you guys feel about what did you guys think of Siobhan? Because they definitely give her some stuff too. Did you guys like her? Were you okay with her? Were you fine with her?
Yeah, I find her subplot interesting because everyone on this island kind of treats her like shit.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you can understand why he wants to leave too. This is Podrick's home. He loves it here, but just because he loves it here and he wants to stay the same, that doesn't mean that everyone else around him wants that either. And so, yeah, I find it interesting that, she kind of wants to leave and kind of, live her own life. She kind of wants to be away from all this stuff. But yeah, I thought her performance was really great. Carrie Condon gave an excellent performance as Siobhan. Yeah, well, what did you feel like, Rico?
Yeah, I really like Siobhan. I thought she was amazing. Throughout all of it. She is like the backbone for Podrick, like throughout all of it. She's the one that's like constantly defending him, like walking, like she's the one confronting Colm like directly. I mean, not that Podrick wasn't, but she's like running up on him, like cursing him out basically when he wasn't at that time. And but she's also very like intelligent and smart, and she like listens to people, and she's very empathetic. And her whole story about feeling that guilt, that remorse, that she was about leaving because she knew she would be leaving Podrick to basically be alone, and she just felt that like sadness and just crying at night thinking about it, but she also didn't want to give up her own chance and everything. And constantly throughout the movie, everyone keeps like commenting on her not being married, and it's just like her pool of like potential suitors are very limited, and she doesn't find anyone there interesting. So it's
Yeah.
just like it's
Mm-hmm.
just sad because it's like I understand like leaving the nest essentially, and then just feeling remorse about what you're leaving behind and what your absence could cause. What would
And
you
at
feel
the
about that?
timing of it too is what makes it like all the more like, sad.
Yeah, with everything
Having
going
to leave
on.
her brother during this period of time.
Yeah, I mean, there's no perfect time for anything, I believe, but sometimes you
Exactly.
just gotta make that decision for yourself. And I feel like she made the right decision.
Which I feel like is just like another theme of the movie, just, time and what we do with it. Like, do you really want to spend, you know, another few years here with your brother, having to like kind of like, pick up after his bullshit and whatnot, having to look over him, take care of him, pick up his donkey shit, like her leaving is, completely justified and you understand it. And,
Mm-hmm.
she does want to keep in contact with him. She does invite him to come and live with her. It is a connection that by the end of the movie you do see will continue to thrive. I mean, I would like to hope that this movie ends on a more optimistic note, which I think it does. So yeah, I do hope that maybe they do see each other in some universe. We don't get to see that, but it does end on like kind of a bittersweet note.
Yeah, it does. I definitely really I like Siobhan's character. She was really you could feel how broken and alone she really felt, because at one point in the movie I remember this scene where she asked Pardik, she was like, "Do you ever feel lonely?" And he was just like, "Lonely?" It's like, and then he walks out like, "What is going on with everybody on this island?" Like he's just like so confused. But you kind of like throughout the movie, like you guys were saying, like a lot of people in Inisherin kind of treat her like shit and don't really respect her and just whole thing. That's why she wants to leave herself. And I also agree that Carrie Condon does a fantastic job portraying Siobhan. And a little fun fact: she plays Stacey Ermintrout on Better Call Saul. Because I was watching the movie and I was like, "Where have I seen this actor?" I was like, "She looks so fucking familiar." And I saw that her credit, the first one that came up was Better Call Saul, and I was just like, recognized her for sure. It's like no wonder she's such a good actress, because she does just as good on Better Call Saul too.
So what'd you guys think of oh man, what the hell was his name? Uh
Dominic.
I was about to say Dominic too. Is that what
The
you're talking about?
the young man, Dominic
Yeah.
Kearney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Barry Keoghan.
The boy's
Yeah.
The boy's back. He's a good actor.
Yeah, no,
God.
he is. I really like the kind of character that he's going for here. He's basically plays like the village idiot, and during this period of time, it becomes like Podrick's like only friend during this time. But like even then, like that's still like a tragic backstory. Like he gets beaten by like his dad and
And
whatnot, which who plays he plays an officer, right?
Yes.
yes, he's a cop, yeah, or a policeman.
So
Yeah.
not only does he get beaten, but he also gets fiddled.
Yeah, he gets sexually abused, and that's another thing I want to bring up about the whole the bar confrontation with Party, because he calls out Colin for being like, oh, so you don't want to be friends with me, but you're willing to share a beer with this guy who beats and fiddles with his kid, and everyone was just kind of like all quiet, like, oh my god, like. And I kind of like how that shows like Pardick, he may be perceived as like an idiot, but he's not completely stupid. Like he picks up on things and he notices things. He just doesn't outright say it or point it out because again, it's not nice. So
Well,
Yeah.
hypocrisy, yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
yeah, for
there's a line that Dominic says too. He says his tiny brown cock, and it could have been like a very lewd thing, but when he says that, I think that's when Colin Farrell's character understood what was happening, because it
Well,
was.
you do see him naked in the previous scene too.
yeah.
Well, I
when
mean,
they-
he has a very white cock, but when he says brown cock, I think that's what he understood he was talking about when he said that.
Mhm.
So it was like little things that it was just very sad understanding his situation, which I might be jumping the gun and going a little too far ahead, but and tell me if you guys want me to hold back on this, but
No, go into it, dude. Go ahead.
at the very
well, wait. Just spoiler warning. There. There we go.
yes,
Go ahead.
spoiler. So at the
Spoiler.
very end of the movie, Dominic passes away. There's a scene when he's talking to Shaban where he's like, hey, trying to like shoot a shot and he gets rejected, but right as he approaches her, he kind of slips on the riverbank a little bit, but he catches himself. At the end of the movie, everyone's speculating like, oh yeah, it looks like he slipped off and drowned. I was kind of interpreting that as him like basically giving up and deciding to kill himself because of everything
Yes.
going on, and I feel like is that a reasonable conclusion to come to? Like, how'd you guys feel about the circumstances of his death, Andrew?
There.
Oh, dude.
Okay.
Yeah, Andrew, Matt. God.
I know.
It's
Go
okay. We still have that issue. We interrupt each other all the time. We're working on it. Sorry, guys. I definitely agree with you, Rico. I kind of perceived it like that too. I was like, no, I don't think he slipped. I think he killed himself. But because again, the whole concept of Inisherin is just like, we got to be nice and friendly, and we got to sugarcoat stuff. So we're not gonna say he killed himself because of his piece of shit dad. We're gonna just say he slipped. So yeah, I agree with you. What do you think, Matt?
No, that is where my mind went to on this second viewing. It definitely kind of, because I took the scene where he's talking to Shaban as kind of like his last hope. Like,
Yeah.
all right, like this could be like my last chance at happiness. Like maybe, like, yeah, it doesn't seem likely, but I'm at least gonna try. And so, yeah, I do agree that it does come across as suicide. And but yeah, again, it is that kind of writing where I do like that you can interpret it the other way. Because Rico mentioned that there were earlier scenes where he almost slipped in, and so it could be interpreted that way too, which I love. But I do agree that it comes across more of a suicide, and yeah, it's all the more tragic because, again, this is all hitting Podrick at just such a low point in his life too, because even though he was the village idiot, like him and Dominic were they were friends, somebody that he would hang out with and whatnot. So even having that stripped away is impactful, emotional. I don't think you get to see much of that emotional fallout with Podrick. He does mention it in his letter to Shaban, but yeah, it's really sad to see what happens to Dominic and how his story wraps up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially with that scene with Shaban where when he gets rejected and he's like, "Well, there goes that dream," and then he just kind of like awkwardly stands there until he just walks away. And then if there's another scene with him and Colin Farrell where Colin Farrell tells him that like, oh, what he did with this person that came to this musician guy that came to see Brandon that about his music, and he says, "Yeah, I told him that his dad passed away by a bread van, and that ran him off." And then Dominic is just like,
Can we?
"You were one of the nice ones. Like I thought you were the nicest one here." Like, and then he walks away like completely like with his shattered perception of it. And if you look at it from Dominic's point of view, it's like no one, there's no good anymore. Like the Shaban's gone. Uh, Colin Farrell is no longer like this good person that he imagined him to be, and then everything with his dad.
Mhm. And I'm
General,
actually I'm
gen,
glad you brought up the bread thing because I actually want to talk about it because we've been kind of covering like the grim and sorrow aspects of this movie, but this movie is fucking hilarious. It is like
Yes.
dark and I'm glad you brought up the bread van because that whole scene where he's telling the music student or whatever about what happened to his dad. Like first he finds him and he's just like, "Oh hey, are you that musician from out of town?" And da da da. He's like, "Oh I am." He's like, "You need a ride?" He's like, "Yeah, I do." And he's talking to him. He's like, "Yeah, the post got a letter saying that from your mom." And he was like, "My mom's dead." He went, "Oh, did I say your mom? I meant your aunt. Your aunt called about your dad." He's like, "What's wrong with my dad?" He's just like, "Well, you know, he got hit by a bread van." And he was like, "What?" He's just like, "Yeah, and they were calling you home so you can spend time with your dad, and he's not doing great." He's like, "That's impossible." He's like, "Well, actually, it is, because a lot of people get hit by bread vans all the time. It happens." And he was like, "I know. It's how my mom died." And I went, "No, what the
So
He's like, "I swear to God, if it's the same driver."
I'll kill him.
I'm gonna kill him."
Yeah, I was. Yeah,
Oh my god.
so,
Oh, man.
that's so. It's like that surrealist type comedy. That's silly, but it works here so well. Like,
Does.
yeah, just the whole the comedy aspects of this movie are funny. Like,
Mhm.
or like when he goes to Colm's house and he just got done finishing the song. He's like, "Well, it takes two to tango," and he's like, "Well, I don't want to tango. You were just dancing with your dog."
Yeah. I, I was thinking about that scene too. Oh my god, I love that one.
Yeah,
Like,
this film is very like I said, very quotable. Like by the
yeah,
second time, I was like, okay, this is actually like hella funny. Like I could see like a lot of these lines like holding up. Like, have you guys been rowing?
yeah.
Like that's something I'll definitely be using in the future.
You guys have you been rowing? I didn't think we were rowing, but apparently we're rowing now. I also
It's
what
two
was it?
o'clock. It's 2 o'clock. We're going to the pub.
What was that? Oh, you know what? I actually want to get into spoiler, like major spoiler territory now with the drastic steps Colum takes to show Hardick that he doesn't want to be friends with him anymore. You guys ready to get into that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right,
Yeah,
perfect.
go ahead.
This leans into the comedy aspect of it too. So in the movie, Colum explains to Hardick, he's like, "If you do not leave me alone, I will start cutting off my fingers and giving them to you to make you understand that I don't want to talk to you anymore." And he was just kind of like, I don't understand what he's like, and he's just so fed up with it. And then Pardik tries to talk to him again, and it just cuts to him at Siobhan's place talking and everything. And he tells her like, "Oh, I want to go talk to." Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm getting it mixed up. He was talking to Colum, and Colum's like, "You know what? Why don't you go to the bar, get us some drinks? I'll be there soon." He was like, "Oh, okay." And he waits there for a while, and then Siobhan shows up at the bar saying, "What are you doing?" He's just like, "Well, nothing. I'm just having a drink. And then the bartender snitches him out. He was just like, no, he was waiting for Colum, and he just looks at him and goes, telltale. Like he's like, you snitch, like fuck you. And then they go home and everything, and literally they hear a bang at the door, and they're like, what was that? And Pardick opens the door. He doesn't see anything. He just sees Clem walking away, and he's like, what the hell? And he looks at the door, and you see a blood spot. And he's like looking around, and then you see fucking Colum's, what was it, his middle finger, was it?
No, it was his index.
His index, yeah.
You're getting it mixed up a little. When they're walking back from the bar,
Right.
That's when all of his fingers are gone.
No, yeah, but I'm talking.
The first time they don't see it.
They don't see him? I thought they saw him the first time too. Or like
Remember, when it's the first finger, they hear the thump at the door, and then Siobhan is like, "What was at the door?" And he was like, "It was a finger." And she's like, "What?"
Yeah. Like, what happened? Was it a bird? He was just like, no, it wasn't a bird. And she's like, what was it? And he's just like, he's like, it's hard to lie. He's like, it was a finger. She was like, what? And she shows him, and she fucking freaks out. I was like, what the fuck? Call him is fucking crazy, dude. He literally did it.
But even before that, like, he gave him a few chances to not cut off a finger. So he did, like, he is giving like Podrick like that slight leeway, which is just enough to kind of like bring him back in, to talk to him again. And Podrick just uses anything that he can grasp at to just get a conversation in with him. Yep. And yeah, it just kept escalating to, because like there was the scene where Dominic's dad, the officer, he punches Podrick in the face, and then Colm sees it, and he goes and helps him up, and then he basically kind of they ride together home. And that's right before he cuts off his first finger. But it's a moment that I feel like is important because it kind of just opened that door up to let Podrick back in, which, you know, you could argue like, okay, maybe you shouldn't have done that. Like, and it's just, again, with the whole kind of like the tragic artist perspective with Brandon Gleeson's character. You can argue it's stupid, but at the same time, like, I do feel like it's trying to say something, like with, you know, artists and, you know, some extreme lengths that you'll go through and whatnot to, you know, just get anybody out of your life, or, you know, extreme lengths that you'll go through. I don't know. I just find it very interesting with that whole dynamic with Colm's character.
Yeah, it was really because I agree with you. I definitely think that Colm gave Pardick so many chances to like, dude, just leave me alone. Like, he gave him a lot of chances before he cut off that first finger. I was just laughing hysterically though with the scene where he sees the first finger, because I'm like, oh my god, like, you know, like of course like with the context of the movie you could see Colm doing something that drastic. It's just like really crazy and funny to see that, you know, it happened, kind of thing.
Yeah, my interpretation of it was because there's a lot of scenes where he's talking to I think he's like a priest or something, and confessing his sins and everything like that. And at the end of every single session, every single confessional, he's asked how is the despair, like saying like because he's depressed, and basically he's trying to like figure it out and try to change it and everything. So that's why he's making these changes in his life, like changing everything with his relationship with Colin Farrell. And there's a point when he cuts off his finger and Siobhan comes and talks to him like, what the fuck? Basically, like, why would you do that? And he's just like, honestly, I'm not sure if I'm doing this for what I'm saying, or if it's also, maybe I'm just going a little mad, and maybe I'm just want something to happen. Like, I want something to change on this island. Like, I want something new to happen. And then he tells Siobhan at the end of that conversation, like, if he comes and talks to me again, I'm going to take off the other 4. Basically, in a way, it kind of seems like he wants Patrick to come and talk to him so that he can remove the other fingers, just so that something new and interesting would happen. And it's like, I feel like he kind of wanted that kind of drama in a way. What you guys think about that?
I agree. I think it
Yeah,
was
I mean, it is something he says. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, you said the quote right there. I mean, that's the moment that I feel like best explains it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, like I also like with my interpretation, like the whole tragic artist angle. I mean, he still writes the song. Like he cuts his fingers off after the song is finished. So, like I said, like that in and of itself, this whole the events of the entire movie like culminated into this work of art. So I do think that like yes, it is tragic, but there's a lot there. I mean, you could look into like a painting and get many different interpretations. So, I find by, the end of it, like even though like yeah, he cut all his fingers off, I still do think by the end of it, he still did reach his goal. He did create a piece of art that will last the test of time. He created the Banshees of Inisherin, and so yeah, I do feel like it's not as tragic in my eyes upon this second watch with that angle, but yeah, the him cutting off his fingers is still very extreme.
Yeah.
More, it's definitely much more like meaningful and artsy. But even from a literal sense, it's still very like grotesque and very like I feel the pain when you see like the tendons on those fingers and like the fat and whatnot because he
and
has
that
some meaty fingers
yeah,
He does.
and
and
ugh, like
that
even
kind
though
of
you don't see him cut him off, like you just seeing the blood drip off his hand was like ooh, and like they're not even perfect cuts either, like ugh.
Mm-mm.
and that kind of brings up another thing too, is that I feel like he just wanted like that kind of attention and also to be perceived as that kind of a way by all of his musician friends because he never like covers it up. He never dresses his wounds. He's out here still waving his hand around, getting blood all over the place, and I feel like he's doing that intentionally to be perceived as this artist in a way that's like so dedicated that he would do this, and I
Yes.
just feel like he wants that attention. I feel like that's just the isolationism of like the island doing that to him.
Definitely, yeah. Because it's sort of like the whole how Vincent Van Gogh cut off his own ear, right, and gifted it
Yeah,
to some. It was like it's sort of that kind of like idea of like artists, real talented creative artists. They can be perceived as mentally ill or just plain crazy.
Yeah, it produces very beautiful results in some cases.
in a way, it kind of looked like it was just like peacocking to me, you know.
Yeah, no, I can definitely agree with that because it's kind of like kind of to bring back the earlier point about how Shaban was always like confronting Colum, like he was just when he was telling her like, well, it's just Hardick is boring, like he's dull, and she's like, you're all feckin' boring. She's just like, you're all like quiet, boring men. Like none of you are, you know, better than the other. You're all boring, and I was just kind of like, she has a point.
Yeah.
No, yeah, and exactly. Like it's just another theme of the movie where like I agree with like Rico's perspective where it is kind of just him being like a little bored and lashing out and whatnot just to get something interesting to happen on this island. So
Mhm.
yeah, and like I said earlier on, like for how simple of a premise this is, you get a lot of complex emotions out of it, and like thoughts and whatnot, and just I mean, we got a good conversation out of it. I feel like.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Would you guys want to talk about that final scene, the final confrontation about the house?
Yes, yes, I would. Who wants to give their opinion first?
Yeah,
Andrew. How
Oh,
about you, man?
I'll go ahead. Yeah, I was about to say I'll volunteer. I'll take.
because I was gonna go,
Um,
but I was like, let me just ask someone else.
yeah, no, I found it very powerful because okay, so basically, what happens after Colum takes off his other four fingers and he throws them at Colin Farrell's door? one of those fingers gets eaten by his donkey, right?
Hmm.
Jenny, yeah.
Yeah, Jenny, which is basically like his comfort relief animal.
Yeah.
Basically, he always lets him in. He always lets her indoors, and Shaban's always like, take her out. I gotta pick up that shit. I'm not letting her out when I'm depressed.
Yeah.
So, so you can tell he's very emotionally attached to Jenny. And so once he discovers that she died choking on one of his fingers, it just kind of reignited this flame. Like, no, like I can't let this be done. Like he has to pay. You know, he took someone away from me that I love. And again, this is piling on top of Shaban leaving, Dominic dying. So like this is just like another kind of like, you know, another pile up for him. And you completely understand. And he's completely justified in his actions too. And even Colm agrees with that too. Like freaking he accepts all the actions and consequences that are about to come his way. And I find it really funny when I keep forgetting the cop's name, Padar, when he confronts him about it and freaking he punches him in the face, like, hey, he just lost his donkey, or,
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
but yeah, freaking, it's very meaningful because like he does say that I'm not even going to be checking. Like I'm going to be burning your house down this time. Just make sure your dog's out because I have nothing against your dog. And I do find it interesting that they do kind of toggle for a brief second, like, okay, is he going to kill his dog now? And you know they quickly toss it aside, like, no, he's not that cruel. He can't intentionally do that to another animal. So I thought that was really sweet. I love how it didn't go like full cartoon evil, like, okay, well, I have to get even with him.
Yeah.
I loved how nuanced it was. And yeah, and I also find it interesting that, like I said, Colm essentially stays in his house to get burned. But by the end of it, you do notice that he does end up, he gets out of the house fire and you see that he's a little burnt up a little bit. So you could tell it was kind of like a last minute decision, kind of like, okay, do I really want to die here? And obviously he made the decision to live. So yeah, it was really, really crazy, really impactful. What did you guys think?
Well, what I liked about it is that you touched upon it, is that there's like that level of respect between them every time that like even though they're at like when Colin Farrell is now like pissed off and it's like I'm not trying to save our friendship or trying to be your friend anymore. I'm gonna fucking kill you. And then but even when he burns the house down, he still watches his dog and then still takes care of him even though he's gone. And then same thing on a on a Colm's side, like he's trying to be like, hey, stop bothering him. His donkey just died, like, and then punches the cop out because he was harassing him. There's like that sense of respect between them where they could easily patch things up. You can tell that they still like respect and love each other, and they're still friends, but they're just enemies at the same time now because of the decisions that were made throughout the movie. And it's like it's also like harkens back to what they were saying about the Civil War. Like, yeah, they worked so well together, and then now they're fighting, and now at this point, it's just like, what are we even fighting about? Like, why are we even fighting? So I just really like that whole take where you can see this being like something that continues on for 30 more years when really it could just be solved, but it's just like both parties just have to be on the same page of calling it quits. And it just happens at the wrong time each time. What about you, Andrew? What were your thoughts on that whole thing?
I thought it was just really well written. It was just fantastic. Everything about it was really well shot. I mean, the build up to Jenny dying and then part it coming to the decision that, oh no, I'm gonna ruin Colum's life. He's like, I'm gonna take this to our graves. And he's like, well, one of our graves at least. And again, the same thing, that last conversation that Colum and Pardick have when they're talking about how the war is kind of dying down and there's not as much gunfire. Because throughout the movie, there's a lot of like gunfire and explosions you can hear in the background when characters are walking across like a beach or kind of like that one main beach area that leads to Colum's house. You can hear like gunfire and everything like that. And at the end, when they're talking, you don't hear it as much. And Colum points that out. He's like, yeah, it's been pretty quiet the past 2 days over there. And Pardick points out, he's like, well, they'll just find another reason to fight. And it's kind of like symbolic of what's going on with their relationship. Like, there's all this confrontation going on and now it's simmered down, but down the line, they could just find another reason to do even crazier stuff to one another. So I really like that. And then also, I really like the name of the movie, The Banshees of Inisherin, because for those who don't know, a banshee is actually based within Irish folklore. And it's more or less like a female spirit that guides people to death of a family member. And you see that happening with the older lady on the island. I can't remember her name. It was Mrs. Something. But she was the Banshee of Inisherin. She led the cop to Dominic's body in the ravine or whatever. So, and then she was standing over Pardick and Colum's conversation on the beach. Like, she pulls up a chair and she just sits there and she watches, kind of like what is it, the death of their friendship in a way or whatever. So I really like that stuff too. It was really interesting.
I believe her name is Miss O'Riordan.
Miss McCormick.
Miss McCormick. There we go. That's what it is. Miss McCormick. Yep. So yeah, I like how they basically use Miss McCormick as the Banshee of Inisherin. I thought that was cool. I don't know if you guys thought that or picked up on that, but what did you think, Matt? Did you kind of get that from Miss McCormick, or did you get a whole different vibe?
Is she like a witch or something?
It's I think they implied,
because she predicts the events that happen in the future in a few situations. Oh my god! God, I should have fucking put these down in my notes. But oh man, yeah, she predicts a few things that happen later on in the movie. So yeah, I was curious to see. Yeah, I was curious to hear your guys' interpretation on how you took her. Mm-hmm. I actually I don't really have much, to be honest. I kind of took her as I mean, I'm just saying witch for lack of a better term, but I don't know. What about you, Rico? I'm kind of rambling here.
She kind of seems like a what is it, a foreteller of the future events. I can't remember what that's called. I was also
that's a better word for it, to be honest.
She had that foresight where she was saying that by the end of this, there will be one death, maybe two.
Yes.
And the maybe two, I feel like was Colum's decision. Should I stay in the fire or should I leave? And he chose life, which, according to his past reports of despair, pretty much changed. It shows that he has changed a lot, and he's chosen to break out of that and do something about it. I mean, what's your thoughts on? Sorry, I kind of went on a little tangent on that, but what are your thoughts on the whole Banshee, Andrew?
No, yeah. So, like I was saying before, I definitely think that Miss McCormick was a physical representation of what a Banshee is, just kind of predicting death on the island. And then, like I was saying, she led the cop to Dominic's dead body. It's that thing within the lore of it. It's they lead family members they lead you to one of your dead relatives or whatever. But in the lore of what a banshee is, they're usually screaming or shrieking or wailing kind of thing. So that's why I really like that the movie was titled The Banshees of Inisherin, because there's everybody has there's a lot of death around, whether it's the civil war going on off the island, whether it's Colum and Pardick's friendship dying, whether it's Dominic actually dying, whether it's Jenny dying. It's just a lot of foreshadowing done by Miss McCormick, who again I think she's she's the Banshee of Inisherin. That's kind of how I perceived it. But the only difference, she's not yelling and wailing and crying and stuff.
So I might have misheard you when you were saying that, but did you say like the Banshees like lead people to the death of their family member or something like that?
Yeah, like a death of a family member. It could be like,
Okay.
for example, it'd be like if they led me to like my dead father kind of thing. Like it's just like they lead you to a dead family member. But in Irish folklore, it's like they're always shrieking or screaming or yelling, kind of like sort of like La Llorona, like kind of
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
that. It's more or less a banshee, but just for Mexican and Latino folklore.
Yeah, so basically, there's at the end, the policeman's gonna go kill Colm, and she like leads him and then leads him to his son in the water.
Hmm.
So I didn't catch on that at all.
Hmm.
I never, and not until you said that I was like, oh, she really is a banshee.
Hmm. At least I think she's like just for the sake of this story, she's the banshee in the story. She's not like a literal banshee, I think, but it's like they hint that she basically is the banshee of this story.
I take the title as like because Banshee it's plural, so like I take our two main protagonists as the Banshees, and they're kind of like screaming at each other the whole freaking movie.
Mm-hmm.
Second
And then
movie.
like and then
Second.
like I said, freaking Colin named his song "The Banshees of Inisherin" as well, and he didn't even like his explanation is he doesn't even understand why he named it that. He just likes how it sounds.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it has a shh in it.
Yeah.
Yes, the double shush, and I was like, okay, interesting. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's what I love. I mean, this movie has like, there's like two interpretations right there. I love that this movie has a lot of that meaning built into it, like with the title, the dialogue, in Sharon as a place itself. Like, yeah, I just love how this whole movie was like a microcosm to just explore a lot of other themes. I don't know. Do you guys want to get into any other things, or do you guys want to get into ratings? Because I feel like I'm pretty good with this movie. I feel like I got everything I needed to say out.
Yeah, I feel like I'm comfortable moving on. How about you, Andrew?
Yeah, I'm pretty much good to go. There's just one last thing I wanted to I wrote these down in my notes just to kind of like one of the themes I picked up in the movie is just that letting go is important, but there's some things you just can't let go of. And I feel like that's a big thing within this movie.
Yeah, that's very
Yeah,
evident with
letting
the end.
go, approach, like how to talk to people. Learning the lessons of things that happened before. And by the end of this movie, they realize like, okay, well, shit, maybe us separate isn't the best way to go about this, and let's just make the best of what we got here on Inisherin, and let's just keep talk. Let's just talk again. And so I like how the movie does kind of end on that like little bit of hope with you know Colm talking to Podrick again, even though it is kind of like Colin Farrell did want to kill him, but he is saying that like this isn't over between us. But like I said, I do think it ends on like a little bit more of an optimistic note.
That's true. I can definitely see that for sure.
So yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say. I love this movie. Do you guys want to get into ratings, my dudes?
Yeah, I'm good
Let's
to
do
go.
it.
Yeah, I'll go first again this time. I really loved that Andrew made this his recommendation because I was pretty bummed that we missed it when it came out in theaters for our new movie of the week. So I'm really glad we get to get our thoughts out here. This has honestly, after seeing all of Martin McDonagh's work, I honestly do think this might be my new personal favorite. And that's crazy because like all of his works I've rated a 9 or higher. I do have to go back and watch Seven Psychopaths. I might feel a little bit different on that. He actually does have an Oscar winning short. I will let you borrow that soon, Andrew, when I let you borrow the Three Billboards Blu-ray.
Yeah. Yes. More Martin
But
McDonagh.
yeah, dude, freaking, it's an awesome 20-minute short. And so I love that it kind of gives like this early blueprint of his style, which I love. Martin McDonagh, his films really speak to me. He's definitely one of my favorite artists that have come out in recent years. All of his movies, I think, are highly regarded. Colin Farrell, Brendan Gleeson give fantastic performances here. Kerry Condon, Barry Keoghan, like everyone here is just firing on all cylinders. The dialogue is fantastic. The cinematography is just gorgeous. Every shot in here is like a frame of painting. Like I don't fault this movie in honestly like in any aspect really. Like I can definitely see people rating it lower for it just maybe not connecting with you on so much of a personal level, but this movie did for me. It provided a lot of important lessons, and I think those make some of the best movies. And for me, I'm going to. I'm struggling between a 9 or a 10, but I think upon this rewatch, I enjoyed it too much to give it. I think I'll give it a 10. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I can give this a 10. Yeah, I love it enough. And like I said, it has become my favorite Martin McDonagh movie. And I got more out of it the second time around. And again, that's another justification that I use for great movies. If it has rewatchability factors and it has themes that you can pick up on upon rewatch, I think that's another indication of rewatchability. Another great movie has powerful lessons, and talking about with you guys made me realize different perspectives too. And yeah, I have a great appreciation for this film. I loved it. 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna have to bring down the average.
God damn it.
I'm sorry, guy. I was not expecting a 10. That was crazy. So I really, really like this movie. Everything about it tackles a lot of like emotional, like very just like taboo kind of stuff. Like it's incredibly sad. All the emotional beats it tackles. Everything with Dominic was just tragic, and I really did feel for Colin Farrell, mainly because his character is being called like dull, uninteresting, and boring, and sometimes like I know I do every now and then. I struggle believing that I have anything interesting to say, and sometimes I get into those moods where I'm just like, damn, I just feel like I'm not really contributing to like any conversation or anything, or where I feel like maybe I'm just not enough, and in this movie it really is just like hammering home to him. Like everyone is saying like, yeah, you're dull, you're boring, you're not really much, like you're not the dumbest person, but I mean you're not far off kind of, but it's like it's just like, damn, man, this dude's like self-esteem. Like I know he handles it very well initially, but towards the end, he even says it himself that he doesn't like being referred to as just the nice guy now, because it's just it's kind of getting to him, and it's like it's really sad because he really does go through depression, and in a way, it's like now he's worried about what other people are saying about him, and I really vibed with that. I was like, God, man, I would feel devastated if any of you motherfuckers like just cut me off, no explanation initially, and just made me feel like shit for the longest time. I'd be so pissed. Like I would be so mad. So I really like empathized with him. I did empathize with Colin and his whole belief that he needs to just surround himself with the people that are gonna like motivate him to go and pursue what he wants to do, which I feel like us three, it's our situation. I feel like we motivate each other to do that.
No, yes, thank you.
Yes, yes.
That was a theme I picked up on too. Yes.
Yeah, surround yourself with the people that have similar interests and will like inspire you to pursue what you guys want to do. So I understand his whole like mindset. It's just his way of going about it was very fecked up to me. So but yeah, you can like take both sides because it's what the Civil War aspect. I just loved a lot about this movie. I was teetering on 8 and 9. So it's not like I'm gonna shit on this movie, guys. I'm not gonna shit on this movie. I'm gonna give it a 9 though, because it did hit me with a lot of emotional beats, and just everything with Dominic And even though everyone knew what he was going through, it's like no one knew how to actually help each other. And Shaban kicked him out, and I don't know. Everyone just was so filled with despair being on this island, and they just couldn't understand how to actually help each other. And that feels like it's the case. Like, it doesn't feel like, even though the island is very isolated, it honestly feels like that can be applied to everyone because everyone is their own island in the real world. And sometimes it is very hard to reach out and like help each other or even to ask for help. So I really love this movie. I'm giving it a 9 for that very reason. Andrew, how about you, man?
I love your fact and writings, lads. They're very good.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just I'm on the same page as you guys. This movie it's fucking phenomenal. It's another dub from Martin McDonagh. That guy is a genius. Even though I love this movie so much, I think my favorite movie from Martin McDonagh is still In Bruges. I love that movie so much, and I definitely want to talk about it one of these days on the podcast too, because I love that one. That one's my all-time favorite Martin McDonagh movie. But with this movie, I'm gonna admit it almost took my spot as a favorite because I was watching and I was like, oh my god, this movie's really fucking good. Like, oh my god, it's like why is this movie so? Why did nobody see this? Like, why is this? Oh my god, like it made me feel a lot of emotions and I made a lot of personal connections to the movie, and I definitely understand both Pardick and Colum's points of views because I've been in both those positions. Like, I've been in positions with friends in the past where they just cut me off out of nowhere and they don't really give me an explanation, and it's a really shitty feeling to have that put on you. And it also feels just as shitty when you have to cut somebody out of your life that a part of you doesn't want to cut out, but you have to for your own well-being and your own mental health. So I definitely get both sides. And at that point while watching the movie, it's just a matter of which opinion you agree with more. So I like that with movies. There is no black and white answer. There is no good or evil. It's just which side do you agree with more? Neither side is wrong. Neither side is 100% right. It's just it matters. What matters is what you think and what you agree with. So I just loved everything about it. You know, Colin Farrell definitely deserved that Golden Globe win because he does phenomenal. Like, his acting in the scene that Matt brought up earlier where he got punched in the face by the cop, and then Colum helps him and rides with him. He just stares at Colum and he starts like breaking down and crying because he can't even talk to him anymore. So you just feel all that raw emotion, and you definitely feel it throughout the movie with everybody's performance, from Carrie Condon, from Brendan Gleeson, from Barry Cohagen. That's how you say his name, right? Cohagen or
Keoghan?
Keoghan. Barry Keoghan. Like, you feel all their performances, and everything was great. So I'm going to give the Banshees of Inisherin a 10 out of 10 because I fucking loved this movie.
Fuck yeah. Hell yeah. No, those are fantastic ratings. Enrico, don't think we're gonna give you shit if you're just a little
I know. I was like, dude, because the way you said it, you had me worried you're gonna give it like a fucking
Like a 6?
7. Like, I was scared, like a 6 or 7. I was like, don't you fucking dare, or we're gonna start rowing.
I just wanted to get you guys a little worried. I just want to make sure that you guys were like, oh, what the fuck? Where is this coming from?
No, you're good, bro.
No, you're not. You're not Siobhan. You're fucking Clem. You're just doing this crazy shit for attention.
Yeah, it was April Fool's, bro.
It was April Fools.
Oh my god, yeah, that part.
Hey,
So awkward. Oh, I noticed it was April Fool's today.
Oh my god, that scene was great.
but real quick before we like end off and everything, this is our 13th episode, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, and we recorded this a little behind the scenes type shit on January 13th, which is Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th.
Right.
That's
Right.
cool.
Holy shit.
Guys,
That's
you want to add another layer of meta to this?
Uh-oh.
I have my coffee cups was a Friday the 13th cup that I didn't intentionally pick with that in mind.
Oh my god.
I legit have a fucking Friday the 13th cup.
That's pretty fucking crazy.
When we started recording, I noticed it because I looked down at the date and the time, and I was like, "Oh wait, what the hell?" But then I just couldn't say it because we were already started. I didn't want to like impede the flow or anything.
Makes sense. And plus, it's better to say it at the end. That's like a little dessert.
Yeah. Oh, that's fucking awesome. Yeah, I didn't even realize that at all.
Funny.
Well, that about does it for another episode. Thank you guys for listening to episode number 13 of Another Movie Podcast. Yeah, it was a great episode, and I believe it's Rico's recommendation next.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So for next week, my recommendations are going to be a little bit of a theme. So it's going to be Megan, the newest doll movie that just came out. I don't even know anything about this. I just know that it's a doll. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. Apparently, it's doing really, really well from what Matt was saying earlier. And
yep, sequels on the way, plural.
Oh shit!
Sequels?
Well, I know one got confirmed. We are getting a sequel, but given how much money this movie made, you could make like a third, a fourth. You know, just this thing is just a money machine right now.
Oh my god! Well, then that's gonna be pretty topical because my personal recommended to go alongside Megan is going to be Chucky, the killer doll from the Child's Play series. So we're gonna
Child's Play, the first one, correct?
Oh yeah, sorry, I worded that weirdly. But yeah, so we're gonna watch the original Chucky movie. It's gonna be Child's Play. We're gonna watch that, and hey, maybe one day Megan's gonna be the new franchise for the doll killing or whatever it is. So
maybe.
Hey, a little OG versus New Age. I'm kind of down for that. What does that sound like to you guys?
You know what's weird is that the last Chucky movie did the thing that Megan's doing right now, where they kind of took it in that, kind of like updating it for this generation. Like, oh, Chucky can fuck with Alexa and whatnot. Like, like that was shit that they did in that movie. And I thought it was decent. I thought it was okay. They changed the design of Chucky quite a bit. And they try to make it a little bit more comedic, or I don't know. I haven't watched the original, so I can't really compare them. But yeah, the recent one was okay.
Well, I mean, the original one, he's like a pristine doll still. So I mean, I don't know.
It could. Well, yeah, but he's not controlled by like electronics, is he?
No, it's supernatural. But
yeah,
I guess you're just gonna have to find that out
in the next episode.
Yeah, so make sure you guys subscribe. I don't really have much to plug in. Make sure you guys subscribe. Follow our Instagram, TikTok, Facebook pages. Those will all be provided at the link below. So, yeah, another great episode. Can't wait for next week. Is there anything else you guys want to plug in before we get the fuck out of here?
Well, before we get the feck out of here, always be on the alert for Practically Done. I'm very much excited to eventually get to it. I'm sorry, I've been saying that on many different podcasts now, but we will get to it. There have been a lot of setbacks with weather and then also time constraints, but we will get to it. Andrew, how about you, man?
Fucking hug somebody, have a good day. Just remember that people are amazing. And sometimes you'll be rolling with people, but other times you'll be vibing with people. So just, live your life. And also watch our previous episodes and subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hell yeah. Andrew taking us home with the meaningful closer.
Yeah.
Love it.
An emotional podcast, an emotional send-off.
Yeah.
Emotion. All right, guys. We got the recommendation out of the way. Yeah, we're good. Okay. That's a wrap. All right. Bye, everybody.
Later.
Fucking bye.